In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Marianne's guests are leaders in their field, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in their own work. They teach others to develop, refocus, and grow. Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. And remember, make every moment count.
Welcome to Moments with Marianne. Today, I'm so excited we're going to be spending this time here together. We've got two amazing guests, two very dynamic women that are here with us today. Our first guest is Michelle Ebbin. She's a renowned expert in touch therapy and natural wellness. She's an author, inventor, entrepreneur, and mother, and founded Basic Need in 1994. She is committed to increasing awareness of the healing power of touch. Now, we're so lucky to have Michelle with us here today. She has been seen on media all across the country. She's been on the Dr. Oz Show, The Doctors, The View, and today she's here with us to discuss her book, her new book, The TouchRemedy, Hands-On Solutions to De-Stress Your Life. So welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thank you, Marianne. Thanks for having me.
Oh, definitely. I mean, oh my goodness, your book is like a fountain of information. Anyone can pick it up and immediately start using it for just about any kind of ailment or anything that comes up.
Yeah, well, I wanted it to be something that for families, there's really something for everyone, whether you have a baby or a toddler, a teenager, or, elderly parents, pets, or even, yourself. I wanted people to be able to pick up the book and really quickly find simple but effective solutions that they can do in, less than 2 minutes. Most of the touch therapy techniques can be done anywhere, like even in your car. I tell people, like, if you get to a stoplight and you have a headache, here's what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
that is,
yeah. So, I mean, it's just like they can, this could be their little Bible they could take around with them for when they need help in anything. You can just pick it up and turn to any page, and it really kind of helps you with a lot of different things.
Well, that's what I'm hoping, because when I've written several other books that were more specific for baby massage and one for reflexology for your feet. But I've been a massage therapist since 1995, and I've gone through everything. As a woman, but I've had 3 children. I have older parents. I work at City of Hope, which is a comprehensive research and treatment facility for cancer, diabetes, and other life-threatening illnesses. So I've taught techniques to many people, to caregivers and family members whose family members are sick. So I wanted this book to have something for everybody, and I wanted to make the touch therapy techniques accessible because most people can't afford to get a regular professional massage, or even if or most people don't even have the time to do that.
Yeah,
so
I can understand that, because it does become a time thing by the time you get there and you do the massage and you come back. It's like, almost 2 hours can be knocked out of your day,
Exactly. And there's some really great techniques that you can do that take just a few minutes and that can really help relieve and even prevent problems, very common problems like headaches, backaches, PMS. So I think these are things that everybody should kind of know and have in their stress-relieving toolbox in their heads so they can use them whenever they need them.
Yeah, in their little toolkit there. So for our listeners that are new to touch therapy, what is that?
Well, touch therapy is really a catch-all phrase. I use it in my book as a phrase that describes all the different techniques that involve touch, and that includes everything from acupressure, baby massage, reflexology, traditional Swedish massage. I include Thai massage. I have about 13 different types of techniques in my book. So I call touch therapy every holistic healing technique that involves touch.
That's perfect. And that makes it really easy to understand. And your book really goes step by step by step what needs to be done if we're looking at anything. Let's say, like we were talking about headaches earlier. A lot of people suffer from that. That is something that they can look in the book, and it will just give them this little guideline on what to do.
Exactly. I mean, studies show that every year over 45 million people suffer from chronic headaches, and I think about more than 10 million will visit a doctor or the ER due to a headache. It's actually the most common reason people visit their doctor, and so many people take medications when sometimes reflexology and acupressure can help prevent and relieve a headache, and it's really simple. So I think it's just something everyone should learn how to do, and actually teach your children so that they grow up and they don't automatically reach for ibuprofen or some other medication, but try some of these natural healing techniques that have been used for thousands of years that really do work.
Well, and I would have to agree with you 100% on that. I read a report. It was from, where was it, on CNN or something like that? But it talked about how the number one cause of people that were having liver failure was because of taking, too much of like an ibuprofen or that kind of medication. It was really causing problems with people's livers. So it's like you don't want to take one thing and then cause a whole different problem, altogether. And, you want to be able to address it as naturally as you can.
Exactly. I think medications should be the last resort. Try some of these remedies that are easy and, and they're not going to be immediate. Sometimes they are. It might just take a few minutes or just a gradual thing if you do it over a period of 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. I have the experience that I used to get migraines all the time, and I started using a simple reflexology pressure point, which is on the tip of your thumb, and you just press it, or you could even get like a clothespin or, those little chip clips or clips that you use at your office. I put it right on my thumb, and my headaches slowly dissipated, and I don't get migraines anymore. So I think it's something that everyone should try, and then use the medication as a last resort.
Okay. And I think that is fabulous advice for our listeners. And another thing, in your book you talk a lot about how to relieve stress by using touch therapy.
Absolutely. Well, really all of the techniques, there are specific techniques for, say, the headaches and back pain and anxiety, but everything in general is a stress-relieving technique. Touch therapy relaxes the nervous system by slowing the heart rate and blood pressure, which is really the number one way to relieve stress. And then on top of that, massage therapy, all of the techniques that are in my book can help decrease the stress hormone of cortisol, and it can actually increase the release of oxytocin and dopamine, which are the body's feel-good chemicals. And there's so many other great benefits that massage therapy can reduce pain and anxiety and enhance your immune system, and all of this is just relieving stress, which is related to so many diseases now. And I think that in our technology-driven, stressed-out society, we have to look at the stress in our lives and look at natural ways to relieve stress and look at lifestyle changes.
Well, I would totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, just most people nowadays they're stressed up to the hilt. It's like, oh gosh, what are we going to do? And so it's nice to have these techniques that they can use that will allow them to kind of recenter throughout their day.
Exactly. All the techniques promote self-care, and they make people just take a moment to stop and take a deep breath, do something for themselves, and sort of understand the importance of taking time to nurture themselves. And that in itself is very stress relieving, even if it's like 2 minutes a day. people just go, 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 and they're going from one activity to the next, and they've got their to-do lists. And touch therapy takes you back into your body. Even if it's for just, a few minutes, it makes you kind of feel sensations and slow down, which is one of the number one things to do today.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more because we're in such a society where everything is like instant gratification, and high stress. It's nice to be able to, center and focus and be able to be a little bit more mindful in our day, which, your book is a great tool for in helping people to kind of continue that throughout their day.
Yeah, I want people to connect back into their bodies. I think today people are very disconnected from their bodies because of the stress and because of just everything is so fast-paced. And touch therapy, all these massage techniques help you to tune back into yourself. And it's the number one way of getting grounded and, really connecting back to yourself, which then allows you to connect with others. And in my book, I really encourage learning the techniques for yourself, but then also learning the techniques for your children and your partner. And if you can spend a few minutes every day connecting with someone else, it'll improve communication and really enhance your relationship with anyone.
What was it that really brought you to writing this book? What inspired you to do that?
Well, this book, it's a bigger picture general book. And for the last 12 years, I've been raising children, and I've been thinking about all the techniques I've used in the different stages of my children's life, when they were babies and then little toddlers. And I would always tell my friends about what I was doing, explain little techniques for, say, colic when they were really little, and then when they were toddlers, how to calm them down. And I thought, wow, I need to put all these techniques into a book, in addition to the techniques that I used to use when I was single as a practicing massage therapist, and also what I do at City of Hope for people when they have cancer. And the book came about because I was talking to my agent, and I was saying, I really want to do a broader book that can affect more people and teach these techniques in a really simple way, because these days, I hate to say it, but people have such a short attention span. And people need quick fixes. They need a quick 2-minute or less fix. So that was my idea behind putting together these solutions to de-stress your life in general, and also give you specific remedies for specific problems that can help you and your family.
Wow. You've done just an amazing job with this. I mean, I was really kind of blown away by what great information you have in your book. I mean, it made it really simple for me to go, okay, well, I've got a headache, or, maybe I'm just, feeling a little run down, or, I have a dog, so, what can I do for my little buddy as far as helping him, because he gets kind of high strung too, So.
Yeah, animals pick up our stress. They're right there with us. So if you're stressed, of course, that's where they say that, dogs or pets often look like their owners, and they act like them because they pick up all our energy.
Yeah.
And
well, it's important. I mean, pets, but in a family setting as well. If mom's all stressed out, the rest of the family is going to be too.
Exactly. They actually have a term for it. It's carryover stress. So that if one person in the family, say the dad, is stressed out, as much as he hides it, everybody feels it. Everybody.
Oh,
feels
yeah.
it. You can't hide it. And in my book, I wanted to include touch therapy techniques that had all been proven. So I did a lot of research. I looked at research from all over the world, the latest scientific research from NIH, to really include only the techniques that have scientific scientific basis to prove that the technique does work. Because a lot of people who may not be open to holistic healing therapies or, more traditional medicine, they go to the traditional medicine route, are a little bit skeptical. So I wanted to be able to back up every single technique in the book with scientific evidence, just to say, even though these have been used for 2,000 years, they really do work.
Yeah, just a little hint that it's been working that long, right?
Yeah, that's why you'll see in the back there's like pages and pages of footnotes of all the research that I put into this book, because I want it to be something that people really can look to and believe in.
Mm-hmm. Now, you were talking a little bit earlier about your work with the City of Hope, and so how can touch therapy help with cancer-related symptoms?
Well, there's many reasons. First of all, when people are sick, oftentimes some people around them, family members, are scared to touch them. They don't know how to touch them. And when people are sick, that's the time when they need touch the most. Mm-hmm. So this book really helps people first learn how to touch someone who's sick and really effectively touch them with specific techniques. At City of Hope, I work a lot with spouses who have someone in their family who are going through chemotherapy, and they're a little bit afraid to touch them. So it can help with everything from just basic stress relief to nausea, headaches. Sometimes people have itchy skin, so there's techniques that will help that. And it's just a great way to bring people together and connect when they're sometimes really feel like they don't know what to do. They don't have a role.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's a great way of putting it, because it really helps people be more connected in ways that, because I've had family members that have gone through cancer, and they can't have kids around. They have to be very careful, when they're going through like chemotherapy, exactly what they can do. And so It's nice to let people know it's like, hey, they don't have to be an isolated island. You can do touch therapy and massage, and that will help them, and also kind of bring the family kind of a little bit back together in some ways.
Exactly. I mean, massage really can decrease many cancer symptoms and the side effects of treatment. I mean, it's the stress, nausea, fatigue. Sometimes people get depressed or have anxiety. A lot of times the medications during treatment cause insomnia and definitely pain. So massage can help all of that. And these are things that people really can do bedside, at home, or even in the hospital, and they're all safe. And it's a great way to connect. The skin-to-skin contact from someone who the patient loves and trusts is a great stress reliever.
Good. Now, I understand that this can help also with people if they have like high blood pressure or maybe joint pain.
Yes, there's some great techniques. The blood pressure is the stress relief because there's a decrease in cortisol, and the body also just slows down. And I'm sorry, what was the other one? Pain? Did you say pain?
Yes, joint pain.
Yes. There's scientific studies that touch therapy techniques can help with joint pain and also arthritis. They're really gentle techniques that help facilitate flexibility and pain relief.
Well, we all need to stay flexible as we get older, so that's important too.
Yeah.
And especially, if there's something we can do, let's say we have an aging parent that just needs a little help, maybe we can, do that for pain relief for them,
Yeah, it really does work. Here in Santa Barbara where I live, there is the Cancer Center of Santa Barbara has a program called the Infusion Massage Program, where they actually bring massage therapists into the infusion room while people are getting treated. And my father-in-law actually is a patient there, and he was just telling me that even by getting a 20-minute hand massage, he will feel less pain throughout his body, not just in his hands. Like, it's definitely relaxing, but he said to me, everything is less painful, which is amazing to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to get that kind of feedback, because when people are going through cancer treatments or, they're in a lot of pain. It's just unbelievable.
Exactly, and the pain's all over. Sometimes it is specific, but sometimes it's just all over the body. And a 20-minute hand or foot massage can take your mind off of that, off of the pain and off of what's kind of going on at the moment, and bring you some stress relief so that you can relax, which is so great for your body. The cortisol levels go down. Sometimes the oxytocin and dopamine levels go up, and the patient walks out feeling better.
Oh, and that's what the doctors want. That's what everyone wants. Family members, we want our, the people that we love and care about when they're going through a trying time to not feel as bad as they do during that. If there's anything you can do to help them, this is the perfect book for that, for sure.
Exactly. It gives people something to do and to feel useful. And I think that's with all the techniques in my book, whether you're working on your baby or your, elderly parents, you have something to do when someone's sick or uncomfortable. I have a lot of friends with new babies, and when their babies cry and they're colicky, they just don't know what to do. So I show them a really simple stomach massage. It's so easy. It's like all you have to know is to go clockwise, because a lot of them were going counterclockwise, which was actually making it worse and, making their babies more gassy. And I said, no, hold on. And then once they got it, it was like a miracle. Like the babies, slowly have some relief, and the moms feel empowered. Like, wow, I know what to do now.
And that's such a big piece, because a lot of times it's like, what do you do? I mean, as an auntie myself, when most of the kids are pretty grown up, so I don't have to, I don't have a lot of infants that I'm spending time with. But if I had one, I would be really confused. I'm like, okay, what the heck do we do? But now with your book, I just pick this up and figure it out.
Right. And then once you do it a few times, it's second nature, and you don't even think of it as a technique. It's just kind of like a thing you do. And and that's why in my book you can start with that baby, and then there's techniques throughout their life. When they're college students, I include things for college students, who've stayed up all night, and to help boost their energy, and things to boost their immune system, and then moving on into the next stage of life.
Now, how important do you believe that touch therapy is for a child's development?
I think it's extremely important. And I think if you look at studies done at the Touch Research Institute at the University of Miami by Dr. Tiffany Fields, they show that babies who are touched develop quicker. They are released from the hospital, I think it was 6 weeks earlier than babies that were not touched. And then as a child grows, I think it's so important to have skin-to-skin contact with your child as they grow. This helps the child become comfortable with themselves, and it helps the parents connect with their children. And when you're a parent of a new baby, you can really get to know your baby's body, so that when something is wrong, maybe it's gas or something, you can feel the changes. You have a sense that something's off or something's different. And then, as the child gets older, especially when kids are in, the preteen, teenager stage, that's a really important time to continue the touch, because oftentimes when children hit adolescence, parents pull away, and they don't have their child on their lap. And, fathers don't want to touch the girls, and mothers don't really want to touch the boys because they think it's weird. But at this point, I think, maybe giving a nice shoulder rub or a hand massage is a great way to stay connected to your child as they grow and as they become adults.
Yeah, and have that connection with them. I mean, a lot of the things that they've been teaching in the past have have really shown to be not really beneficial at this point moving forward with children. And one of them is they used to, like when little Johnny was born, they would go ahead and just wrap him up and, clean him up and what have you. And they're not doing that anymore. They're really encouraging that skin-to-skin contact like you were talking about with the parent and getting that bonding moving forward.
Yeah. Yes. I think back, in the 60s and 70s when people would go home with their babies and just put them in the crib, and it was like the cry it out method, and they wouldn't go to their babies and they wouldn't hold their babies. And it's, I think it's so sad because now there's research that proves that, research that came out of Harvard University said that physical contact and reassuring will make your children more secure and better able to form adult relationships. So it helps the children to feel secure so that they can grow up and feel like they can go and have a real relationship as an adult.
Well, and and that's kind of the encouragement that we as parents would provide to them, as they're growing up, is that stability and showing them that, hey, things are going to be okay, kind of thing. Now, I know that you talk also about in your book about how it really can help children with special needs, and I'd love for you to expand on that for our audience.
Yes. Well, there have been a lot of studies done on massage for children with autism and ADD, ADHD, cerebral palsy, and Down syndrome. And one of my children has ADD, ADHD, so I can talk personally about this. The techniques are a way to help the children calm down. The contact that you give them, the gentle, soothing massage techniques, help the children sort of settle their nervous system so that they can tune into themselves and really calm down. In my book, I show a couple of different techniques, and one of them is a burrito technique where you would take a child when they're a little bit anxiety-ridden and, hyperactive, wrap them up in a blanket very tightly, not quite like swaddling, but pretty tight, and then you give them a soothing head massage. And I know that this can take my son from like really kind of hyper to quiet and calm in 2 minutes.
And what an amazing gift that is, to be able to give somebody some peace and ability just to kind of recenter themselves when they're really that upset. I found that there are many different techniques in your book that do help people, regardless if they're young, if they're old, to help them with different situations. Michelle, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show today and talk with us about your new book. We really appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you, Marianne. I hope everybody tries to use at least a few of these techniques, and I think it'll help people feel better.
Without a doubt, this is a fabulous book. Thank you so much again for taking the time to be with us here today. If our listeners want to check out your website, they can go to basicneed.com, and that's basic, KNEAD.com for Michelle Ebbin. We are going to pause here for a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com. Ben Wexler is a gifted leadership development and strategy consultant for professionals who want to transform their organizations and careers. Through a uniquely personalized set of processes, participants discover their unique knowledge, how to leverage that knowledge and experience, and then put it all together with a global strategy. You're more valuable, your organization is more valuable, and the change is viral. Contact Ben at 630-881-1074, 630-881-1074.
Discover the book publisher's weekly calls compelling. Piper, Once and Again, is the breathtaking debut novel by psychic medium Caroline E. Zani. Death has no power over love. Piper, Once and Again, is a story of hope for the hopeless and faith amidst tragedy. Follow Piper on a journey of loss and redemption as she tries to find the one man who can help her figure out why she must be. Piper, Once and Again. www.carolinezani.com.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. I am so excited to be introducing our next guest, Cheryl Harbour. Now, Cheryl is a journalist and communications consultant, and she has researched and written about every topic as diverse as nuclear energy, education, health, logistics, and women's leadership. When she is about to become a grandmother, she turned her attention to finding the best information available for the first year of her grandbaby's life. So this book that she's written, Good to be Gran, Making the Most of Your Grandchild's First Year, is just not for grandparents. If you are an aunt or an uncle, anyone that's going to be around young people, this book's definitely for you. And there's also a special treat. The foreword was written by Hillary Clinton, which includes her personal reflections on the birth of her first grandchild. So let's go ahead and welcome Cheryl to the show.
Thank you, Marianne. It's wonderful to speak with you.
Oh, what a delight it is to speak with you. Now, this is a powerful little book. I mean, my goodness.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
It was what I'd say a real labor of love at several different levels.
Oh, well, so what inspired you to write this book?
What inspired me is that my oldest son and his wife told me that they were going to have a baby. And it was fairly early in the pregnancy, and I just was curious about things. I wanted to learn about things. I wanted to learn what had changed in terms of baby care, and I knew probably science of brain development and child development had advanced, and I just really wanted to dive into that and know more about it. So I went looking for a book that did that, and I found great, big, thick parenting manuals, which I knew had more in them than I needed to know, especially right at the beginning. And I found some books that were about things you can do with your grandchild when they're in elementary school, projects and fun things. But I didn't find this overview that was filled with relevant information and that was just fun to read and would help me anticipate and get ready for this role. So I am a professional writer, so I decided that I could be the person to do that. I could do all the research, I could pull together what would be most relevant for grandparents and also make it a fun, friendly kind of read.
Yeah, and you really did so well in putting this all together. I mean, this is like, I would consider it like every grandparent, but also like aunt or uncle or maybe good friends that have friends that have children that, like, if you babysit for them every once in a while, it's like, what do we do?
Well, thank you. And I think that's true. I think a child has a network, and the more people that care enough to engage with the child and know what they're doing and be a positive force for that child, the better that child will be.
Mhm. And it makes
having aunts and uncles and cousins and neighbors and friends and godparents and all of those roles are equally important for a child.
Oh, Well, and children bring so much to our lives, and it's an honor to be part of their development to a point where they're there's either some kind of imprint on them because of something really positive that happened, or just overall the overall development of them.
Sounds like maybe you've enjoyed that kind of relationship with someone.
I have actually quite a few little someones that I enjoy that with. A dear friend of mine.
Fantastic.
Yeah, has these great kids, and so it's always fun to go and visit. They come over, they call me Auntie Marianne, and we just have a great time. So
that's great.
Just
I was an aunt for a long time before I was a mother, because I have an older sister who had children much younger than I did, and it's a very special role to be that adult who isn't your parent, isn't the parent, but has a chance to develop a different kind of relationship. It's really fun and powerful.
Yeah, and I really feel like for their development, and like you were saying, like for their further development, having those relationships, it's communicate with adults and other people, and it's so great to be able to bring up a topic that they probably would not otherwise even have in their sphere. That you can say, well,
That's
how
right.
about this, or look what's happening in science today. So many amazing, wonderful things. Now, I know in your book you have golden rules of grandparenting. Why don't you go over that for our listeners so they understand a little bit more about that?
So in addition to going through manuals and talking to medical experts and behavioral experts and covering all the expert field, I also talked to probably hundreds of grandparents. And they were at various stages of their grandparenting. Some were new, some were great-grandparents. And it seemed that one of the most helpful areas for advice was this whole idea of managing the new relationship. And parents on both sides of a couple, both sets of parents, probably are not used to caring as much about the decisions that married couple makes. Like if they buy a sofa that's totally impractical, or they buy a house that isn't exactly right for them in the parent's mind, they probably can let that go. But when a child is involved, there's so many more emotions and attachment and connection. So navigating through that role of grandparent while maintaining good relationship with the parents takes some effort. That was the consensus of people I talked to. And so pulling together the kind of advice that these grandparents offered, I put together a few golden rules of grandparenting. And the first one is to trust the parents of the new child, because even though they may do things a little differently than you do, they are adults and they're probably very much intentionally doing what they do. So that would be the first one. And the second one was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it was act like you trust them, maybe even more than you do, because there's a tendency to see things that you've never seen before in the way of parenting philosophies, parenting methods, and you don't really want to be the one that says, oh, that's ludicrous, or we didn't do it that way. So it's a little bit of restraint. It's a little bit of open-mindedness and letting the parents chart their course and supporting them in whatever way you can. So then there's a few more rules. I don't know if you want me to go through all of them or
Sure. I mean, I think it's important because, our listeners can really get a really good understanding of, okay, like maybe they've never been a grandparent before, and like, so what do we do? Number one, they got to buy the book.
Well, that's a good start anyway. You can go deeper if you want to, but this is, I think, an overview, a bit of a guide to get you going in the right direction. So another one would be that when you are with the child, to exude confidence. Of course, you have to ask questions, but there's nothing quite, this is what some parents told me about the grandparents that were connected with their child, which is that it's one thing to come and say, oh, we'd love to give you a night out, and the other thing is to act like you're terror-stricken that the parents are actually leaving. It doesn't really give the parents a night out if they're worried. So this was a suggestion that you learn what you need to know, you be informed, and then you appear calm and competent so that the parents can actually feel good about you being with the child.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the last thing
Pardon me?
I'm sure the last thing they want to feel is guilty for leaving, you know.
Right, and be calling every 10 minutes. And so that was just a hint. That actually caught me by surprise a little bit because my own parents were very involved with my children, and they never really gave me the idea that they weren't totally committed to making it be good for both them and the child. But I remember one time, soon after my first child, my husband and I went on a little trip. It was probably about 2 months after my first son was born. We went to the Olympics, and it was a special trip. But I called, and the first word I got was that he had a little cough, and my mother was really being conscientious. She really wanted me to know every little detail. But I have to say the cough didn't turn out to be anything, and while I wanted to know, I think my mother and I both agreed that she would be a little braver about handling things if I was out of town and not give me a report if it was something that she could assess was minor. So I had a little bit of experience with that, but then parents told me the same kind of thing. They love it when their parents are there with the child if they all know each other well, but just wanted to feel confident. Another golden rule, and there's a lot more about this in the book, is keeping the relationship with the parents of your grandchild healthy and whole. And one bit of advice there was that you respect both roles. One of those parents is your child and one isn't, and you want to try in every way to have the relationship with both of them be honest and genuine. And one specific piece of advice was to try to, if you feel you have to say something to the parent, try to be able to say it to both of them and not always be talking to your own child with little bits of advice and little digs, and particularly not to criticize, put them in the middle and criticize their partner. Mm-hmm. So it is a changing relationship.
And I can see where that would be really important is, respecting the decisions that they make. I have a friend, and we joke about this kind of often now, but I mean, she's, her children are grown, they're in their 30s, and every once in a while she'll call and ask her son if he's brushed his teeth. And I'm like, are you kidding?
Well,
that's mothering gone wild there.
The teeth must be really important.
But I can understand it. So respecting them because they are adults, and and they have children, and respecting the decisions that they make, is a really big piece as far as the communication back and forth, so that way they feel that they're making good decisions and they feel honored in the relationship. So
yes, right, and they need to feel confident. One of the things people told me was that they learned that sometimes the best intentions can actually undermine the relationship. For instance, when people go right after a baby is born and they're digging in and doing the laundry and taking out the garbage and trying to do everything they can think of for the parents, that is usually taken really well. That's very helpful. But if that goes on and you're always coming in the house and scrubbing the stove because it's got some grease spattered on it, the parents can feel, gee, I must not be doing this right. They're thinking I'm incompetent or something inadequate or something like that. So you have to think of everything from both angles. How will this appear if I do that this way?
Yeah, and how it makes them feel, because
right.
Setting as a new parent, setting those boundaries and making decisions on how they're going to move forward. There's a lot of things, and a lot of times they probably are just figuring things out, at least with friends that I have that have their first child, they're kind of figuring out what's okay with them, where their boundaries are.
Yes.
As they go, and then the second kid, everything's much easier. So.
Yes. I had a funny incident that someone told me. It was actually a granddad that told me this, and he and his wife had 3 sons, and he said this was, I think, a real story, but I think it was also showed how your attitudes move along. So with the first child, if the pacifier dropped on the floor, they would sterilize it. And if the second child, if the pacifier dropped on the floor, they'd run it under hot water. And with the third child, he said if the pacifier dropped on the floor, his wife would pick it up, wipe it on her jeans, and put it back in the baby's mouth. So,
and that's probably more true because I think I've kind of seen some of that.
Yeah, some of it is expedience, and some of it is just knowing that there's some leeway with things you do, that children survive even little mistakes and grow up to be fine people.
Well,
but I do say in the book that probably grandparents shouldn't go out to try to be the person that breaks the rules, bends the rules. That it's a little better for the relationship if they try to follow as much as possible the way that the parents have chosen to go.
Well, that probably makes things much smoother between the parents, so there's that relationship where they're like, well, we like having you over and, taking care of your grandchild, because then we can trust that, it's going to be pretty much similar to what it is that we're doing.
I think that's exactly true.
Yeah, so far off in the bushes, that they're kind of going, well, I'm not sure about that, They're having pizza parties every night, so.
Staying up late and.
All that kind of stuff. Well, and I know in your book you talk about, and this has actually been kind of a hot topic, is, immunizations. And
yes.
So why don't you go over that for our listeners real quick, because I think that, it's been something that people have discussed quite a bit, and I'm sure our listeners want to hear your take on that.
Yes, well, most of the time in the book when I would lay out information, it was because I had the same point of view or the same information confirmed by several really reliable sources. The big parenting manuals, but also Mayo Clinic has a lot of information. So I would take the course, and of course the American Academy of Pediatrics and some of the other academies, I would find where they agreed, and that's what I put in the book. But I also made it clear in most places that parents have the right to make their own decisions. So I didn't become a proponent of any particular thing.
Yeah.
So while I was writing the book, there was a controversy about immunizations, and luckily some of that was resolved because there was a lot of talk about possibly immunizations contributing to autism. And I think some celebrities had really taken on that cause and was influencing a lot of parents to be very worried about that. And so right before I wrote the book, the largest organization that's an advocacy group for people, children with autism, made a very definitive statement that they believed that all the information proved that there wasn't a connection. So all I did in the book was really quote that, include that in there, and suggest that people would have to talk it over with their pediatrician, follow their best conscience, and make that decision. While the evidence from medical experts is overwhelmingly that immunizations are important for the child and do not have a link with autism, I still feel that I was not out to preach to parents about what decision they had to make.
Well, and I would agree with you on that. I know that CNN had reported quite a few times about just that information that was given in regards to the link. And again, parents can make up their own decision on what it is that they want to do. One of the things I really appreciate also about your book is really is the amount of information that's in here and the size. I mean, and you're right, because I've looked at some of like the parenting books before that they have, like Barnes and Nobles or a local bookstore. You go in and you see them, and these things it's like an encyclopedia. They're just, It's insane how big they are. And it's almost overwhelming for someone that's just looking for like simple information, on, if the baby's teething, what do you do,
Right, and those big books, those huge books, I did end up reading all of them because that was one of the sources of information and questioning. But I tried to differentiate between, for instance, the parents have to decide what kind of car seat they're going to buy for their child, and the grandparent just has to know how to work it. You don't really have to decide. You don't have to do all the research on the car seat. That's the parent's job, but you have to know how to work it. The parent will decide how they're going to introduce solid food and what order and what types of food. And the grandparents, if they're willing to follow the parent's lead, just have to have that food on hand or know what the diet is for when they're taking care of the child. So I didn't feel that grandparents need the whole array of information as much as they did to have peace of mind, to be able to explore what they were curious about. So every time when I was going through this, every time I wondered about something, I researched it. And I think that we in this generation were very used to having information fuel our decisions and our actions. You can have your instincts, you can have your experience, but we also have information with almost everything we do. So I decided to take on that load and gather the best information, because otherwise you're going to spend as much time as I did trying to research everything.
Well, and what's nice is, you've done the research, the information's here, so, unless somebody really wants to go out and learn more about one topic or another, this is your book, Good to Be Grand, is just a fountain of information that I felt it was really easy for me to pick up and go, oh, okay, I didn't know I can do this, or you don't put babies on their tummies to sleep anymore. I didn't know that,
That's one of the big changes.
Yeah. I mean, and so that's one of the things that has changed from what it used to be as far as parenting. I mean, when I was, born in the 60s, like anything went, so
yes,
it's like if you made it into the 70s, hey, you were lucky, but there wasn't all these things that they did. I mean, and we were kind of joking around about this the other day. It's like even because the seatbelts were different, your seatbelt was your mom throwing her arm out so that you wouldn't go flying into the dash,
Isn't that hard to imagine? Yeah.
We've come a long way, thank goodness.
We have. Yeah, I remember my parents taking my sister's little 3-year-old boy on a cross-country trip, and they had, I don't know, a Pontiac Bonneville, do you remember those? And they had an armrest that came down on the seat between the two seats in front, and there he was ready for his trip, perched on that little armrest between the two of them in the front seat.
Yeah, so I mean, it's great nowadays. They have all this new information that kind of stops some of the senseless injuries and things that would go on. But it's kind of funny thinking back. It's like, oh, okay, well, things were quite different back then.
Oh,
but
yes.
So one of the new things, babies don't sleep on their tummies anymore. We don't do that.
That's right. And it was so much the other way 30 years ago, because everybody was told that if they slept on their backs, they could choke on their own, food if they spit up a little or something like that. So then, you know the story of why that all changed?
No.
So there were people researching what was possibly calling the sudden infant death syndrome. And according to their research, they decided that was one of the factors, one of the major factors that might be causing sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, So they totally changed the recommendation to the other way, that people would put their babies down on their backs. And of course, the unintended consequence of that is that babies startle when they sleep, and they weren't sleeping as well. So then the next wave of invention was these swaddling cloths and swaddling blankets that everybody uses now, that tightly wraps the baby so that the baby's arms are close to their side, and that seems to help them stay asleep longer. So I think it's still, from my own experience, it's still a little bit of a challenge, and so I think one of the unintended consequences of that is there are a lot more tired parents around. But given the choice, you're going to follow that advice. So.
Oh, definitely, and it's really good advice. And in fact, you also talk about how to start solid foods a little later than what we've been told. And what's the reason behind that?
I think that the reason behind that was that there's so much information that supports the health benefits of breastfeeding and it's also, I think, very high in calories, so it was actually leading to babies getting better nourished, to have breast milk instead of some of the things that people fed at first. So they now recommend that babies have only breastfeeding or formulas that have been improved too, that reflect and represent the same kind of nutrients that breast milk provides. So either way, a child can be really well nourished, but the advice is to keep going till at least 4 months for the formula-fed babies, but 6 months for breastfeeding to get all those good antibodies. They also found it was helpful for the mother to breastfeed that long. And so the solid food started to be introduced later, and the kinds of solid food is just amazing now, where the little jars of baby food that were really unappetizing, and you had the little spoon, and that was how you started them. Well, rice cereal first, but you started them with those things, and now they have an unbelievable variety of flavors for babies. They have kale and quinoa and cumin, and they have so many flavors for babies. It'll be interesting to see when these kids grow up if they have a really gourmet palate or whether it doesn't really make any difference. And of course, organic food is so big now for parents. And really the baby food manufacturers have had to follow the parents' lead with that because their sales are really going down. Of course, a lot of people make their own baby food, and they have a lot of devices now to help people do that. But there's a tremendous selection of organic baby foods that are ready to go.
Unfortunately, that's about all the time we have for today. I really want to thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. I found every chapter to provide insights that were hands down amazing things I would have never thought of. And for our listeners, you definitely want to go ahead and pick up Good to Be Grand, which is the ultimate roadmap for today's grandparent, uncle, aunt, you name it. So thank you for being on the show today, Cheryl.
Well, thank you. It's really fun to talk to you, and I hope you'll continue to bring lots of various viewpoints to your listeners and to add so much to the conversation yourself.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. And again, our listeners can pick up your book, Good to Be Grand, at any major retailer, Barnes & Noble's, Amazon. They can also go to your website at Cheryl Harbour, HARBOUR.com. I'd like to thank our listeners for tuning in today. And remember, make every moment count.
Join us next time for Moments with Marianne, when host Marianne Pestana brings another inspirational gifted leader to help us grow. Tune in every second Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Moments with Marianne, when the Dream Vision 7 radio network is at 1510 a.m. Boston. Or catch Moments with Marianne every Thursday and Friday at 5 p.m. and 5 a.m. Eastern Time by going to dreamvision7radio.com. To learn how Marianne started her business from the ground up, visit mariannepestana.com. Don't miss this, and remember, make every moment count.